Welcome to Calon, the place where you find the ideal you. Learn about philosophy, psychology, leadership, and personal development in one place. If you have not subscribed yet, you will miss out. So, let's begin. Relationships are a vital part of life and are, however, often neglected. We have an underdeveloped ability to interact with each other constructively, resolve conflicts in a win-win situation, and connect with another human being in a profound way. Despite this, the importance of quality relationships for a complete and meaningful existence is clear. So, our goal today is to clarify the difference between healthy and unhealthy relationships, as well as familiarize ourselves with techniques to substantially improve our interpersonal intelligence. Before we understand what a healthy relationship looks like and how to build it, let's explore what makes up an unhealthy relationship. All of us, at different scales and characteristics, have been through unhealthy relationships that subtract rather than add or multiply. We were both victims and perpetrators, whether we realized it or not. These relationships may have been with family members, friends, colleagues, employees, or partners. The unhealthy relationship is marked by disrespect for the other's figure, or by a need for control. Both characteristics show insecurity on the part of the oppressor. It is a way of not exposing your own weaknesses and insecurities through intimidation. Relationships that are built on hostility, dependence, intimidation, dishonesty, or any form of violence are, like a fruit invaded by worms, rotten. The sooner the seeds of corruption are identified and treated, the easier the cure. Now that we have briefly seen the characteristics of an unhealthy relationship, let's take the next step, seeking to understand a shift in perspective that will kick off the process of building more successful relationships. Being right versus being less wrong. As with everything in life, building something good is difficult. By the nature of entropy, it's easier to build something that doesn't work, since there are many ways for something not to work and few ways for something to work correctly. In other words, excellence is something very difficult to achieve. Furthermore, in a society in which what is difficult is often discarded, we live in a celebration of the bad, a festivity of the lowness. Mediocrity has become, out of laziness to build something good, the norm. In relationships is no different. We are used to insipid conversations and shallow relationships. We forget that we can delve into the soul of another human being and seek, not simply to be right all the time, but to understand the world from the perspective of whom we are relating to. We are too arrogant to think that we are right about our worldview. So the first step we must take to build healthy relationships is to let go of our pride, self-confidence, and disdain for another human being's experience and perspective, and enter the interaction with an open heart to learn something new. Which, as mentioned earlier, isn't easy, but it's definitely the best thing to do. We must have the conception that most likely what we think is completely wrong or largely inaccurate. We need, thereby, to complete the pieces of the puzzle so that we can get closer to the truth, distancing ourselves from ignorance and misunderstanding. This occurs through genuine interaction with another human being. Techniques for building healthy relationships. Now, from a more philosophical perspective about relationships, let's get to the pragmatic part. Let's understand the techniques that we can actively adopt so that we can, like a rain that nourishes the soil, enrich and give life to our relationships, both personal and professional, thus improving our interpersonal intelligence. 1. Align expectations. A relationship in which both parties know what to expect and what not to expect from the other is a relationship in which clarity reigns, lessening the space for rancor and false hopes. Instead of both parties secretly wanting the other to carry out their wishes, the best thing to do is to clarify expectations. 2. Seek the win-win. Conflicts are a natural part of any human interaction. Therefore, it is impossible to eliminate them, and neither should we seek to eradicate them. Otherwise, the relationship would live in a lie, in an unrealistic and only theatrical fairy tale. So what matters is how we resolve these conflicts. The best way to solve them is through win-win. That is, the creation and implementation of a solution that is good and satisfactory for both parties. 3. Practice active listening. Honest and genuine communication between the parties allows for an understanding of the other's perspective. Generally, we think we know how the other feels and what he's looking for, his fears and uncertainties. However, we are almost always wrong. And if that weren't enough, from our uncertainty and blindness about the state of the other, we dive into conclusions, many of which are distorted and deformed. Instead, we must enter into a conversation seeking to understand the problem from the other's perspective, not just simply listening to answer, being right, or giving an advice, but to really understand that other human being. 4. Be trustworthy. Aligning your words and actions is a key step in building healthy relationships. If you say one thing and do another, little by little the trust that the other person has placed in you will fade away, like the flame of a candle that has nothing more to burn. When you say you will do something and you deliver as promised, you show that you have character and moral fiber, extraordinary aspects in the society of superficiality and irresponsibility. 5. Be honest. As we've seen the importance of aligning expectations and building trust, aligning our words with deeds, we can't promise what we can't deliver. So don't create false expectations just to please the other person. Be honest with yourself and with whom you interact. Explain as clearly as possible your needs, preferences, and limits. Don't create a false reality simply to avoid conflict or escape unpleasant situations. Given that, this will only corrupt the relationship. 6. Know how to say no. Connected with the issue of honesty, alignment of expectation and trust, be prudent in the things you say yes to. Delineating your boundaries is important so that the person you interact with knows what to expect from you, what you like, seek, feel, and accept. Also, knowing how to say no is a sign of self-respect, as you decide where you will invest your time and energy, and respect for the other person, because you are being honest. 7. See the situation from the other's perspective. Another important technique for developing our interpersonal intelligence and building healthy relationships is knowing how to understand the other. Rather than simply being satisfied with the version we create based on what the other person has said, we can ask questions to clarify our interpretation and, being as clear as we can, express what we understood from what the other has said. We have seen in our reflection today how to build healthy relationships. We understood initially the characteristics of an unhealthy relationship, which is based on control, authority, violence, intimidation, insecurity, and dependence. Then we saw how we can change our perspective from thinking we are right all the time, making the other person swallow our truth, to thinking we are already wrong, Thus, we admit that we do not have all the pieces of the puzzle and that we can learn something of value from each other. At last, we learned 7 tangible techniques to build meaningful relationships and improve our interpersonal intelligence, whether on a personal or professional level. Basically, this will be through relationships based on trust, listening, collaboration, honesty, and clarity. Hey Calendars, comment in the chat what technique you think is the most important and which one you find challenging to implement. Thank you for sticking to the end. For more inspiration, reflection, and techniques, make sure to subscribe to our channel. If you have enjoyed this video and you want us to keep producing more, make sure to give us a thumbs up, share with people who you want to see inspired, and leave a comment below. See you on our next video.